Hey everyone, it's the Pitt Mailbag Show from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. We're your hosts, Chris Carter and Stephen Thompson. We're here at our Airbnb in Durham, North Carolina, getting ready to cover Pitt at Duke, number 4 team in the country, the Blue Devils are. It's going to be a big matchup, and we got a lot to talk about that, but there's also news for Pitt football. So let's get into all of that here in the Pitt Mailbag Show. That's every Tuesday on your favorite podcasting apps and on YouTube. Like this video if you enjoyed. Subscribe to this channel to get all of those episodes and the daily content that comes out from all of our sports writers. Our first question comes from Joe, who says, what's up with Damian Dunn? Will he be ready to play against Duke on Tuesday? Stephen, Jeff Capel said, hey, that we're looking at the doctors were looking at him on Monday when we were driving out to Durham. I think that's a good sign he's being looked at, but we still seem to not know what's going on.
Yeah, I'll tell you, he looked pretty good during warm-ups on Saturday afternoon ahead of that Stanford game. I thought he moved pretty well. It didn't seem like that thumb. He did have a big, brace and some wrapping tape around it, but didn't seem to affect his shot at all. I mean, they were wide-open shots, but he was making more than he was missing. So I thought he looked pretty good. I think there's a decent chance that he does play against Duke, but don't be shocked if he doesn't make it into the lineup then.
So that'd be big. Damian Dunn averaged 11 points per game when he did play for Pitt. He's been out since their victory over LSU in the Greenbrier tournament. So that would be a big get for Pitt to have him back, not just on offense, but also on defense. He was kind of there whenever they had key guys to defend. Ishmael Leggett, he's been the guy that's kind of taken that role. Damian Dunn was that other guy that they could say, hey, if there's another guard, you're going to take him. Jalen's good at defense, but those are your two seniors. They're tough, they're physical, they're used to it, and they've been very good this year when called to defend these guys.
Yeah, I think the physicality is the biggest part to me. I mean, Duke has a ton of athletes. It's one of the biggest reasons why they're the number 4 team in the country and why they're 12-2 at this point with some really impressive wins. Is just that they have athletes and talent all over the floor, and so having Dunn there, who has a little bit of size as well, I think will be really huge playing some defense. And then the shot making as well, trying to break a really tough Duke defense. He's going to be huge in that sense too.
Stay tuned because we will keep you up to date with his availability for this basketball game against Duke. And if he's not available, I think it'd be safe to assume that he'd probably be coming up sooner rather than later for the Panthers after missing 6 weeks of action. But let's get to some football questions. Mike asks, Pitt landed a bunch of transfers last week. Are any of them going to make an impact right away? Good question, Mike. Steven, you've been writing our recruitment reports. What's your top lead on who you think the most impactful guys just off of the surface level, at least from Pitt's transfer portal efforts?
Yeah, it's someone who I think has flown under the radar quite a bit, but it's Jayden Bonsu, the former 4-star recruit, spent 2 years at Ohio State looking for a place where he can just get on the field and make an impact somewhere. He hasn't played in a game yet, but obviously a really talented guy. And Pitt has avoided safety, losing Donovan McMillan and PJ O'Brien. I think they like the way that Cruz Perkins has been progressing, and you get Javon McIntyre back, but there are going to be a lot of open snaps there available for Bonsu. And, if he's able to kind of learn the defense right away, he's going to get a head start, I assume, enrolling in January. And I think there's an opportunity for him to play right away.
A player that I'm looking at is Andy Jean, the receiver out of Georgia, 3-star guy, 6'1", 184, but he's a freshman coming off his freshman year. He didn't have great numbers overall, 6 catches for 97 yards. But the youth that he's bringing to this Pitt offense, they need another person to step into the system and we be able to grow behind Kenny Johnson. They also got Deuce Spann. I almost called him Deuce Man. They got Deuce Spann. He's a taller guy, 6'4". He might be the deep ball threat or the go up and get it guy, the way that Dejon Reynolds kind of was for Pitt sparingly this past season. But we know how Capel wants to run his offense. He wants quick guys. He wants guys that can run good routes and can get open. And Andy Jean can fit that. That can be another good piece for the Pitt Panthers on offense. Other key gets that they got: Blaine Spires, defensive end out of Utah State, and Kendall Stanley, I think out of Chattanooga. Charlotte, excuse me. A big time offensive tackle, someone that they're hoping that can be planted right into their system right away.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Stanley is going to be a big get for them, a guy who has some guard and tackle versatility, but I think would end up at tackle. Also, watch out for Rashawn Murray, Cal UPA, a D2 All-American last year, plays some corner. Losing Ryland Gainey tomorrow comfortably means that there's some more snaps open there too as well.
And I also want to remind people that just because this is who they've got now does not mean that this is that this is done. Pitt's probably going to be active in the transfer portal for some time. They're going to be looking at options throughout the rest of the year. And I think it's also going to be interesting to see where do they target the rest of the way. They've been bringing people in for visits. They've been looking at other defensive ends. We talked about how finding an an edge rusher to replace Sincere Edwards was going to be a big move. And also to replace Nate Matlack, an old guy and a young guy lost from that system. But also, like you're pointing out, cornerback's going to be a big need for this team. Rylan Gandy was supposed to be your CB1 for the future that you would develop. He wasn't great this year, but I thought he was solid enough to kind of say, like, hey, for a first year as a starter, that's a good place to grow from. But now you have to find a whole new group here, like you pointed out, with him and Crumpley gone. Lots of questions there to be answered still by Pitt in the transfer portal.
Absolutely, and they're certainly not done.
They're certainly not done. Let's keep it moving here. Our next question comes from Ryan, who asks, Pitt is a 13.5-point underdog to Duke tomorrow night. Is there any chance they can pull the upset, and what will it take? Stephen, this Pitt team came in here last year and beat Duke in a very inspirational way. Blake Hinson hitting 7 3-pointers. It was still young Bub Carrington, young Jaland Lowe. I think this Pitt team is better, but the problem is that Duke team is also a lot better. Cooper Flagg is just unstoppable. Jeff Capel talked about him on the ACC Zoom's coach talking about a Zoom call, and he was basically like, "Look, that guy. He's like, how do you stop him? You kind of don't. You have to do other things right."
Yeah, and I think the thing that impresses me most about Flagg is his defense and the way he kind of keys the defense for the rest of Duke. I mean, this is a team that is much better defensively than they are offensively, and they rank inside the top 10 of Ken Palm's adjusted offensive efficiency and defensive efficiency. But they're really good on the defensive end. If you look at their 2 losses to Kentucky, and they have one other, I believe it's to Gonzaga. It's to a couple of top ranked teams. No, they beat Auburn actually. But when you see Duke lose, when you've seen them lose, and they've rarely done that this year, teams have been able to move the ball really effective for them. A lot of their points have come off assists. A lot of their made field goals have come off of assists. So Pitt's going to have to be able to move the ball really well. It'd be really helpful to have Damian Dunn in the lineup there. But I think you feel a lot more confident knowing that you have both Ishmael Leggett and Jaland Lowe in that lineup, who are 2 of the better passers in the ACC. But I think it's also going to take a really good effort from Cam Corrin to be effective on the inside, maybe put some fouls on their starting center, who's a really good defender as well, and kind of create some shots for himself like he did, especially against Stanford.
Absolutely. Kentucky and Kansas, those 2 losses, but like you pointed out, they did beat number 2 Auburn at the time, number 2 Auburn, and has had some really good wins. Hey, that's why they're number 4 in the country. This would be a big win now. Again, is there a chance? Yeah, sure. I think, like you said, this Pitt team's been gritty. They have playmakers, and I think one thing about this Pitt team is last year, if Blake Hinson was off, it was rough goings for that team. But this year, they've shown, hey, if Ishmael Leggett's not shooting well, guess what? Jaland Lowe can step up. We've seen the Diaz-Graham twins; they're shooting better right now. Zach Austin's shooting better, and they're attacking the rim. Cam Corrin's been on lately. This Pitt team, I think, is maybe the most balanced team at this point of the season that we've seen under Jeff Capel, and I think that's a really good thing for this team. And I think that 13.5 points. I think it's a lot of respect to what Duke's been able to do and how they've beaten a really good Auburn team, and how they've hung in there with 2 really good teams that are probably going to be high seeds in the dance. But if Pitt wants to go in and get back-to-back years beating Duke in Cameron Indoor, when they hadn't beaten Duke in there since the 70s before last year, it's going to take a concerted effort across the board. I think Cameron Corrin, kind of like what Jeff's saying, Cooper Flagg is not going to be stopped. But if you can keep him from taking over the game, he's going to get his points when they get the ball in the right position. But don't allow him to make the insane plays. Keep him from doing those things, and keep him from knocking you off your rhythm. And I asked Jeff Capel when they played really good defense, because they've had really great stretches in a lot of their games, and he said the big thing is we're flying around, we're attacking, we're doing that. That's what Pitt has to do in this game. They have to be athletic. They have to use use their aggressiveness on defense to move around. They do those things, I think they'll be in a good spot.
Yeah, and I think you brought up a good point about the depth and Pitt's kind of versatility. Last year I feel like in that win again over Duke, it was Jaland Lowe hitting some really tough shots. Obviously, Blake Hinson going 7 for 7 from 3 and doing like he does, hitting a bunch of ridiculous shots. And Ishmael Leggett made some tough shots as well, but I think that you can't rely on that in this game. It's got to be ball movement, creating open shots for others, and you got to exploit that depth that you have if you're Pitt.
1,000%. What's our last question here? We got a question. We don't have a last question. Well, there you go. There's our Pitt mailbag show. Pardon our dust. We're on the road here. We just got through champion here. Stephen Thompson drove us the whole way for 8 hours to 2 blizzards to get to Durham. But hey, that's the dedication that you see from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. From Chris Carter, Stephen Thompson, thanks for checking out another Pitt mailbag show. Keep it here with the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. We will be at Cameron Indoor for that big-time matchup Tuesday night, 8 p.m. tip-off. It's going to be an exciting one. You want to follow our work, go to post-gazette.com, subscribe there to get our work, and remember to check out the Pitt Mailbag Show every Tuesday on your favorite podcasting apps and on YouTube. We'll see you there.
Thank you for checking out this content from Post-Gazette Sports. If you watch this video on YouTube, please like the video and subscribe to our channel. For all of the sports coverage the Post-Gazette has to offer, visit post-gazette.com.